The Longview Animal Care and Adoption Center is facing a surge in homeless pets. City leaders are looking to try to step in and help.
And tonight, the council approved filing for an up to $100,000 grant for the shelter's spay and neuter programs. As KLTV7's Andrew Culver reports tonight, the money could be a relief in hard times.
Staff at the Longview Animal Care and Adoption Center say the summer months are typically tough on them. The shelter usually sees high intake numbers and fewer adoptions. Last month, the shelter took in over 500 cats and dogs. Compared to May of last year, that number increased by more than 150 total intakes.
Consent agenda is approved.
Today could prove to be a helpful step. Public Information Officer Richard Yakeley with the city says there's a pipeline problem with animals in Longview.
One animal can have litters and litters and litters, and so if you get an animal that isn't spayed or neutered, effectively spayed and neutered, you're not just helping that animal, you're also helping reduce the volume of unwanted animals in our community.
If awarded the grant, the money would go towards the shelter's Spay It Forward program. It provides vouchers to cover $100 of the cost for spaying and neutering. Yakeley says the money would also allow for more clinics to spay and neuter any pets.
You really see and feel the difference that this shelter has made, and we know that it will continue to make.
And he urged the community, the time is now.
This is the time when we need our residents to show up to care for those unwanted animals, and if they have space in their lives and in their family and in their homes, to make room for those animals, because we certainly are feeling it right now at our animal shelter.
Andrew Culver, KLTV7 News.
The Adoption Center will celebrate 10 years as a shelter in July. The initial ribbon cutting was on July 16th, 2016.